Hello everyone, welcome to my shop. In this video I'm going to be doing the front differential fluid on my R35 GT-R, trying to get it ready for track season. This is not a super difficult job. You need the car up in the air, so high enough that you can get underneath of it and move some wrenches around and get a drain pan underneath. You do not need to remove the front wheels. I have them off for other reasons. The only part that you do need to remove from underneath is the center tray. It's the same one you would remove if you were doing an oil change. I'm going to go ahead and get some things moved around, get some lighting underneath, and we'll go ahead and get started. This job does not require a lot of tools. You will need a ratchet, a couple of different extensions. You will need a 10mm Allen socket. A light will definitely be helpful. Potentially a breaker bar or a pipe to help break the drain plugs loose. And you will need a torque wrench. The torque spec for these is 35 Newton meters or 26 foot-pounds, so you don't need a very high torque wrench for this. In addition to the tools, you're going to want some disposable gloves. Gear oil smells terrible. Probably a couple paper towels to help clean things up. You will need some kind of either a fluid pump or a fluid syringe like I've got to help measure out the amount of fluid you need. Total amount of fluid you're supposed to need for this job is 0.65 liters, so you can either use one full bottle of fluid, or if you've got some left over from doing a rear differential fluid change, you'll need that remainder plus a bottle. You will also need two drain plug washers, drain and fill plug washers. They are the same part number. I'll put the part number down underneath in the description. These are crush washers. They are one-time use, so don't try and reuse them. As far as gear oil, you do need 75W140. If your car is under warranty, you definitely want to use the Nissan fluid, but I'm going to be using some AMSOIL Severe Gear 100% synthetic. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and show you where the drain and fill plugs are on the front differential. The fill plug on this car is pretty difficult to get to. As I said, you're going to need some extensions. It's also just difficult to see. So if we look under here, this is on the passenger side of the car, assuming a right-hand drive. The first plug that you can see down here, this is just to the right of the oil pan. First plug here, that is your drain plug. That is a 10mm. And then, much more difficult to see, up here around all of your AC lines is the fill plug up top there. Once again, also 10mm. So I highly recommend you make sure that you can get the fill plug released first before you start draining, that way in case you have some problems. So I'm going to go ahead and get some extensions together, and I'll show you kind of how to snake up in there. On my car, this is going to be a little bit more challenging. I have an upsized oil filter. This oil filter is much larger and sticks out further, so I do have a little bit more challenge to get to my fill plug than your average user would. I've already kind of test fitted this. I need my 6-inch plus a 2-inch plus the socket to get in there, and I need to get it inserted before I attach a ratchet to it. Got to get over the filter and under the AC bracket up in there. There we go. So I've got it into the socket. I'm going to get my ratchet on. So these plugs have a tendency to get in pretty tight because of the seal. I've already cracked this loose using a pipe, so this should come loose pretty easily. Yeah. So one important note, before I said go ahead and remove that upper fill plug after you break it loose, my differential appears to have been overfilled. I don't know whether that was previous service or from the factory, but when I did remove my fill plug, I did have fluid drain out. So make sure, you're probably best off to actually wait, go ahead and crack it loose, that way you know that it comes loose, and then go ahead and remove your drain plug, that way you can drain all the fluid out and you don't end up with a drip. I'm going to have to clean up a bunch of stuff later. So for the fill plug, or the drain plug, once again, 10mm. I've already cracked this one loose, so I know it will come loose pretty easy. Go ahead and remove the drain plug. Remove it slowly, that way fluid doesn't shoot past your drain pan. One important thing to note, the drain plug on the front differential does have a magnet on it. So you're going to want to make sure you do a good job of cleaning that off. Go ahead and use your paper towel. There is also an aluminum crush washer right here. That is, as I said, one-time use, so you're going to want to go ahead, take that off, discard it, make sure that it doesn't stick to the differential. The fill plug is the same way. It has the exact same washer on it, so make sure that you can account for both of them and discard both of them. I'm going to go ahead and let this finish draining, clean this up, and then we'll come back. Well, I finished letting it drain. I'm almost done. Just real quick, I know this was hard to see in the earlier part of the video. So this is your drain plug, this is your fill plug, there's the magnet on the drain plug. You do need to make sure that you put these back in the proper location. They are the same size, so they would thread in, but you do want your magnet on the drain side. You can also see the aluminum washer. There's one on both. So these are one-time use, so you will need to replace them. So at this point, it's drained about as much as it's going to drain. It's just a few drops here and there. I'm going to go ahead and take a clean paper towel, do a good job of wiping as much debris out of the threads as possible, and making sure that I do a good job of wiping the sealing face off. You do want to be careful and make sure that you don't push debris, especially if your differential is dirty for any reason, into your differential. And at that point, I'm going to go ahead and start threading the new crush washer on the drain here. I'm going to go ahead and start threading that in. Wipe one more time just to make sure that I don't have any residual oil around. Torque spec for the fill plug and the drain plug are both 26 foot-pounds or 35 newton meters. So I'm going to go ahead and torque It is not a lot of torque, so you don't need to really hammer this thing in here. Once again, 26 foot-pounds. Now that I've got the drain plug torqued to spec with the new washer on, it's time to refill the differential. This is not going to be an easy task. It's hard to get fluid up in there. You're going to need either a pump or like a fluid syringe like I've got here. The official value that Nissan says is 0.65 liters. So with this has graduations on it, so I am going to pump 0.65 in. The manual also shows that you can fill up to the fill line, or up to the up until fluid starts to pour out of the fill plug, but I've also read that that is not, that's overfilling. So I'm going to go ahead and use my syringe here, suck some fluid out of the bottle, and start pumping some in. I'll start to show that, and then I'll come back. At this point, I've completed putting in the 0.65 liters. I might have put in a little bit more just to be safe, but it was not so much that fluid started coming back out of the fill plug. At this point, you just need to make sure, you need to do your best to reach up in here, clean up any oil that any extra oil that you've got around, just so that you'll know if you've got a leak. If you can, you want to try and get up and make sure that the sealing surface for your new crush washer is good. Being very careful not to wipe any dirt potentially off of your differential into the threads or into the differential itself. I've got my fill plug with new crush washer on it. I'm going to feed this up in and start to thread it in. Once it's snugged up, I'll grab my torque wrench. Once again, 26 foot-pounds or 35 newton meters. Once your fill plugs and your drain plug are torqued in, just do a quick inspection, just make sure that everything looks all right. You've cleaned off any oil, that may be any residue that may be around, so that you can check for leaks later. You really should probably check this after 100 miles or so, just to make sure that your seals are sealed. And And that's it. Front differential is a little bit more challenging than the rear differential. I did that in another video. I'll link it at the end of this. Biggest challenge here is access. It's very difficult to get up to that fill plug. Said it is 0.65 liters of 75-140. Your drain and fill plug both need new crush washers, and it's 26 foot-pounds for both of those. At this point, you're done with the fluid change. You're going to probably want to double check, make sure you don't have any leaks after 100 miles or so. You can put your under tray back on. If your wheels are off, you can put them back on. I'm going to go ahead and button things up here, do a quick test drive. Please like and subscribe if this video is helpful. Hopefully it was. Check back soon. I'm going to start having some new track videos here soon, and I'm going to be doing an HKS transmission cooler install on this car. So thanks again for tuning in.